Yesterday, I spoke about the lie of omission, and I thought that a series on the lies I tell myself might be useful in helping you identify your core lies and or stories. So, what both inspired this and what has come up for me in this series of training that I'm doing is the lie of invisibility. I grew up feeling invisible, which is not a story that came from my family. I was not ignored. It is something of my own making, or maybe it's a generational wound that I just did not feel seen. I didn't feel heard, even though that's not the factual truth of my childhood, and that's not even a process. Like I can view that quite clearly and see that I was encouraged to speak up and have my voice heard, but I always felt invisible. And maybe that's tied in with unworthy, but I really felt invisible. So I went through a period, I was very shy. I went through a period in junior high where I was kind of like, you didn't even really see me. And I got really frustrated with that. And I remember making a very conscious decision in the summer of eighth grade. Our grades are split where you move to the high school in ninth grade. And I remember thinking, like, I don't even care if I look ridiculous, but I will not be ignored. I will not be ignored. You want to make fun of me because I'm going to put myself out there in a way to be made fun of? Fine. But you are not going to ignore me. So I shaved my head. And this is back in the day where that was shocking. I had a rooster tail that would be blue or yellow or whatever. And that was like back when that fucking meant something. And my outfits were, I worked at a thrift shop, dream job. So I would wear like wedding dresses to school. I mean, I wasn't just goth, although of course, I wore a lot of black too. It was costumes. It was full on costumes because that feeling of being ignored was more abhorrent than being ridiculed. And that continued. So I kind of disappeared and abdicated myself and my soul in my marriage. Again, not asked to do that. That was done voluntarily by me. So when my marriage ended and I was rebirthed and thrust out into the world, I reverted back to my teenage self. My teenage self really provided some amazing guidance. She was she's the rebellious one that allowed me to be like, bitch, this isn't working. And at the time, I was so panic stricken by my marriage ending, I would just squash it down. But that voice was there. And in the end, I really was having trouble squashing her down because she was quite strident and totally right. Um, but that feeling, that false feeling of invisibility, that if I don't show up in spangles or leather or like something outrageous, you won't see me, came out again in my early part of being single, where I needed to wear something outrageous or act outrageously. And I am a little bit of a freak on the dance floor. That is really just who I am. But it's amazing how I reverted back to the exact behavior that got me what I wanted. Right? It got me, for good or for bad, I got attention, I got looked at. And so here's me in an adult body playing those same games. And so, fast forward as I learned some really valuable, beautiful lessons and got some real gold from allowing that teenager and that rebel to come out and push up against, status quo type of things. Um, Now I find myself in a place where, my ego structure allows me to show up here every day, even when my critic is trying to shut me down. Even when my critic says, you look disgusting, even when my critic says, you have nothing to say, you have nothing to contribute, I still show up. And the reason I show up is the transition I'm in now. So the transition I'm in now is understanding that simply showing up unadorned, without spangles, without a dance routine, without all the extra jangles that, like the fire twirling, that emotional fire twirling that I used to do to get attention is now tempered by the wisdom of you just showing up is enough. You just being fully present is enough. You will be seen. You will be heard. And even more importantly, you will see you. You will hear you. So, as I go deeper into this ministry training, it becomes much more about me being the vessel and providing sacred space, and much less about my ability to bring fire or bring truth. Those things must be present. And they are probably why I'm drawn to this work in the first place. Because again, I've always said, I'm not afraid to put myself out there and look ridiculous if it lets one person be less alone. But it's not about me. It's not about me as an individual. It's about me as a conduit and a vessel. And that actually makes me feel more connected, and I can feel that it's less ego driven. And so that is what I'm kind of working through now. So, initially I started this training and it said, it's very important to provide the structure the same way every time. So my creative rebellious side was like, fuck that. I want to make it up my way. I want to put in my 2 cents. And now I see it's not necessary. Your presence and your ability to just be in that sacred space and create the atmosphere of being sacred, so people understand this isn't just like meeting up to chat. That is all you have to bring. And it's not about your spangles or your twirling. It's just about channeling the full presence of you, so you can invite God into yourself and to every person into the room. And it is a beautiful lesson and a humbling lesson. So that invisibility, the lie of invisibility, is what I offer you to look at today. If you feel invisible, so here's the thing. I felt invisible and I handled it by overcompensating and saying, I'm not going to let you look away. Maybe you're shy and you made yourself invisible and you were so good at it that you have trouble showing up and being seen. So I'm going to challenge you today in some way in your life, if that is what you feel like, that you just want to hide and you just don't want to be seen, that maybe you feel like you're unworthy of being seen. I'm going to challenge you in one small part of your world today to show up and stand in your own light. That's my challenge. And I am going to endeavor to stay in my interior self. There's no showboating. There's no, fiery baton twirling. Not that I really do that. I mean, I'm very attracted to that idea. I don't literally do that, but I do the equivalent. No razzle dazzle. Just you showing up. And I will see you tomorrow.